All right, there we go. We are live. Hello and welcome to the Enlightenment Exchange. Lisa is back with us again,
And
talking
that,
astrology and the full moon. And we've got John, who wasn't here last week, but he's back this week. So that's all good. It was a holiday week. So.
Indeed.
Anyway, a couple of things. One, let's start with if you haven't yet subscribed, please do. And hit that little, I think it's a bell that says you can get reminded when the episodes are coming up. We do try, we didn't manage too well today, but we do try to post the live streams ahead of time so that you have some time to plan out for it. And then the other thing is we've got one more, let's see, 16. We won't be here next week. We'll be here the following week, and then I don't know what that looks like after because I've got surgery coming up. If you know me, you know a little bit about that. If you don't, then just send me good wishes, and that would be wonderful. Anyway, so that's that. And then I just want to, I'm really excited about this because the full moon for me, releasing and doing work in the full moon, like there's nothing like chugging a quart of moon water, is there? I mean, is there anything better than that for real? But I would like to just take this moment because we're trying to focus on, not only astrology, not only tarot, but also the divine feminine. And I want to remind everyone, because divine feminine, divine masculine is present within all of us, to remember your divine feminine sovereignty. And what do I mean by that? You are sovereign. You can choose how you think. Don't let anybody tell you what to think. Don't let any one way or another, lean you one way or another. Don't listen through fear. Listen through your own sovereign solid standing. um because that right now in these kind of chaotic times is what really is going to be the anchor to get us from here to the other side of all of this. There is an
Mhm.
end. That this is not forever. Um, I think that one of the things a lot of people said, well, of course it's going to be fine, but it's going to be different. And when you say it's going to be different, it sounds to people like their whole lives are going to be upended and changed. And that's not necessarily the truth. A lot of things will be different. A lot of things are
Mhm.
being brought to light right now, but you're still going to be who you are, right? Your own solid, sovereign, centered, balanced self. So do everything you can to remain that way. And that's me now off my soapbox. And so, whatever you think or whatever, John and Lisa, or if we want to just dive right into the pool of moonlight. Hello, we've got a listener, a watcher, listener, whatever. Anyway,
A fan.
welcome. Thank you for joining us. If you haven't hit that subscribe button, please do. Anyway, okay, moving on. So we want to talk because we've got full moon now. Tomorrow, the full moon I read is about 3:30 or something Central Time here.
yep, 3:37.
Yep, I'll see
Oh, you
that.
guys
There
are
you
good.
go.
I was just looking it up, but
Yep, we should know that Lisa knows,
of course.
but that I prefer to work with the moon in the dark. So if the moon goes full at that moment in the daylight, I just wait until it gets dark out anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
'Cause I mean, I like that pool of, when I sit on my porch and the full moon is shining down on me, it's illuminating.
Hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
just don't see that in the sunshine. So
Mhm.
that's how I prefer it. But anyway, so what does that mean for all of us, Lisa? Full moon tomorrow, full moon in Capricorn, right?
Yeah, the full moon is in Capricorn.
And I
And
know we were talking a lot about abundance.
mhm.
Um, so what do we got here? What are we looking at?
Okay, so with the full moon, you're going to have the moon. It's at 18 degrees of Capricorn. Then that means the sun is exactly opposite in 18 degrees of Cancer. So what we're looking at there is in astrology, the polarities are really important. So Capricorn energy is about the keywords for it are your structure, your work, your career, your duty, your responsibilities. And, with the full moon in Capricorn, I think it's a really good time to just kind of release any guilt or shame or perfectionism tendencies that we have, because Capricorn can get really hung up on being perfect and what is perfect, right? And then with the full moon, you want to release what's no longer serving you. And, guilt can keep us trapped in cycles of where we feel, stuck where we don't want to be.
Oh,
So,
well, I mean the hello everybody. Three of the biggest attachment mechanisms for any kind of negative energy imprint are guilt, shame, and fear.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Those are the
Another
things that
keyword
will
of Cap.
keep you. Those are the things that will keep you stuck, right?
Yeah, and I'm sorry I talked over you, but that's the other keyword with Capricorn is fear.
Right.
Fear of change.
So
Yeah.
Isn't it kind of the rules, lots of rules and regulations sign?
Yes.
Okay.
It's the authority.
All right.
So going back to what Angie said, being sovereign, you really want to work to become your own inner authority. And in pairing that with what we've been talking about with nurturing and supporting yourself and others, it starts with yourself first, right? So, there's a lot of family and societal imprints, constructs that are put on us. And as we individuate more, and we're going into that age of Aquarius, we really have to start with ourselves first and become the boss in our own life. And that can disrupt the apple cart with, some people. But ultimately, we are all striving toward that sovereign
let's hope so.
energy. So yeah, I
I
would
mean,
agree.
so when I work with people, as a coach,
Hmm.
I always tell people go for the low hanging fruit first, right?
Hmm.
Start small when it comes to this. So, like, I worked with somebody once whose mother used to fix her plate. She knew full well that she was a vegetarian, but this mother would fix her a plate of, everything, including meat, and she would eat it, right? Even
Hmm.
though she didn't want to eat meat because she was a
Hmm.
vegetarian. And I told her, just to start with, leave one thing behind. Say, put one thing back. Don't put the whole plate back to start with. Don't say, oh no, I'm not eating that. Start small, because if you, especially in family dynamics, right? If you
Yeah.
just totally turn around and rebel, that's met with the parental energy that's directed at rebellion, and that's never a good thing, right? You need to allow time for people to get used to the water, right?
Yeah. That's a really
You
good way to
know,
say it.
the so or you choose the restaurant where you want to go sometime, or the small things, because you have to start getting accustomed to actually exercising your own free will, your own sovereignty
Hmm.
yourself. And then if you're a people pleaser, if you are someone who is constantly saying yes, yes, and let's do this, you have you have to get people accustomed to, saying no, unless you don't care if they're all gone, which that's me. But you have to think, you really need to think these things through. So we're
Yeah.
giving you information, we're telling you what the energy is, how the energy can support you, but you have to think these things through. If
Hmm.
you want to alienate everybody in your life, just go ahead and do a quick 180 and start acting completely different, and then you just don't know what's going to happen, right?
True.
Right. Keeping it real.
Well, I mean, and to me, that is part of your sovereignty, right? That is
True.
a part
Yeah.
of
It's the
exercise.
cold turkey
It,
version.
right? It's not, well, it's not, because I think a lot of people mistake the idea of being sovereign and, my own free will as doing whatever you please. But that doesn't really work. How do I put it? I mean, I know that I want to do what I want to do when I want to do it. That's me. That's in my sign. It's all over me. But
Mhm.
that doesn't mean if I've got responsibilities that I say, well, I'm going to lunch. I don't care.
Right.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean? You have to
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
thoughtful
Yep.
and you have to decide how you want to fit into your surroundings, into your
Right. You're
family,
still
into
in relationships.
right.
Mhm.
Yep.
Because somewhere in here and in the full moon and in what's going on in the astrology right now, we are always talking about relationships in some way, are we not, Lisa?
We are, and with the moon being in Capricorn, the sun is in Cancer, and Cancer is a sign of home and family.
Well,
So
there you go.
there you go. And also in this full moon, Venus, which represents the divine feminine in everybody's chart, and that's love. Um, it's in a power conversation or conjunction with the planet Uranus in the seventh house of partnerships in Chicago, at least. It'll be different. You have to adjust the houses depending on the time zone. This can be a sudden blow up in the relationship arena if you live in our, around the Midwest, if you will. And so you do have to work with those. I always say with the planet Uranus, you'll feel it first in tension that starts frustration, tension that starts building up, and you want change. And so you can just blow up and just say, I'm just blowing everything up. We're just going to create the change, or you can do it more intentionally. So having a little bit of escape valve, along the way, so you can start moving into your sovereignty at a slower pace to help people adjust to the new you. But this is a full moon where and it's in a luck aspect of Pluto, so we are wanting to make some transformations in our lives. It's just a matter of do you want to blow it up right away, all at once, or do you want to do it slowly over time?
Okay. So we have a comment um in the comments. Someone wanting to know when will I get married. So we're not really predicting in here.
Hmm.
However, I think that there are ways to leverage the energy of your own astrology and your own chart to kind of get yourself in a state. I remember a story that you told where you said something about you have to heal the relationship with yourself. Do you remember that, Lisa? I mean, you know the
Absolutely.
story very well.
Yep, I know the story very well. Yeah, in your the birth chart is a really great way to explore where your energy is with all the areas of your life. So when you look at, particularly when you get to a point like this person wants to get married, right? So in that case, then it's like, okay, well, first of all, by looking at the first and seventh house, that is you and all others. But first and foremost, it's the sacred relationship that you have with yourself. So it's really important to look at what is the energy in the first house, the seventh house, the rulers. You can follow the energy around the chart. So it's not as easy as just saying, well, it's this. You kind of have to follow the energy and then interact with the client and with the person and just say, how does this play out for you? But a really good way to do this is to kind of look at your relationship patterns in past relationships, what has worked well, what has not worked well, what part of that can you own, and what part of it do you feel like came from the other person. So yeah, I think that's a great place to start because then you're starting the relationship on a solid foundation.
I think also just because it's my particular experience. I wanted when I was younger, wanted to get married. Wanted. When will I? When will it happen? And the truth is, the minute I decided I was going to be okay if I never did, and that
Hmm.
Mm,
I was going to be fine on my own, all of a sudden, the man who lived directly across the hall from me,
mhm.
all of a sudden was unmasked, unveiled, and we've been married for going on 32 years.
That's,
Wow.
I didn't realize that.
So,
That's
and
really
and and
cool.
it and to me, that's an energy shift, right? Like
Yeah.
I shifted the energy within myself to say, and this is what you're talking about. This is exactly what you're talking about. The relationship with yourself is the one that you have to look at first. There's
Yeah.
nobody out there that can fix any of that. I mean, can a marriage bring security? Sure.
Hmm.
Can it, bring companionship and children and all those wonderful things? Yes. But if you're not good going in, if you're not okay, even to be on your own, you're not really
Not
going
going
to
to
be
fix
great
it.
in a relationship either, right?
No, exactly. Exactly. You have to be a whole person that you bring to the relationship, or it's going to get, it's going to go south at some
Codependent.
point in some way.
Right? And you
Yeah.
have to get together with a whole person.
Yeah, true. That's
You
true.
know, I
Yeah.
mean, that's
Mhm.
in my earlier years, a lot of those that I got involved with were they all needed fixing of, I'm accustomed to driving the truck, right? I do. That's how it is. Um,
Right.
but my husband was accustomed to being the passenger. He was all right with being the passenger, meaning he didn't need me. He was fine without me. But he was okay to be the passenger and let me do my thing
Hmm.
rather than two people trying to be in control all the time and just constantly in some kind of dissonance. So
Yeah, because what
I
you were talking about surrender, and then you got into the flow of your life, and you attracted in this partner
exactly,
Mhm.
that worked.
exactly, and the exact right person,
Yeah.
the exact right person. So I mean, you can't really ask for more than that. There's a
Hmm.
level of comfort in this surrender. I mean, don't get me wrong, we irritate each other. Sometimes he does it on purpose, to be honest, because he's the middle of 9 kids. But anyway, okay. So John, I know, we're already this far in. You have questions you are dying to ask.
I've been so patient. I've been
You
so patient.
have. So how about if I be quiet for a minute? Let's see what you have to say.
All right. So um, here's my question, and I think this might end up being a deep dive. Capricorn is all about rules and structure,
Yep.
and divine feminine is a little bit more flow, right? Letting come and letting go,
Mhm.
right? And I want those things almost seem directly opposed. So talk to me
Mhm.
about Capricorn structure and
Mhm.
how it relates to divine feminine.
Mhm. Yeah, because Capricorn is really kind of a more of a masculine sign.
Yeah,
Hmm.
that's what I thought. Just kind of
Yeah.
doing my research. So yeah,
Hmm.
that stands to
Hmm.
reason. Thank you.
It's ruled by Saturn again. You think very masculine, right? You think
Hmm.
very time oriented, and Capricorn likes to think it can control things, and it will die trying.
I know people like that.
Yeah, yeah, I am one of those people.
Uh-oh.
So, how do so it's interesting. It's a dance, right? Because the divine feminine, we talked about it last week. That's the Empress card in the
Mhm.
tarot.
Yep.
And if you look at that Empress card, she's just sitting back on her throne and she's in total
I have her
surrender.
right here. So just say,
Hmm. So, the way I look at it in terms of balancing it is that you have to do a little bit of both, right? You have to take action, which Capricorn have a plan. They always have a plan. Take your action, but then don't feel like the outcome is going to be exactly the way you think it's going to be, want it to be, because you're interacting with it's in relationship to something else, right? A person or a situation or an idea, whatever it is. And that that interaction is going to there's going to have to be some energetic negotiation going on there, right?
mhm,
So they are, left on their own, they seem very, very different and kind of polar opposites, if you will.
right, yeah.
But so you do have to take action. You do go for what you want. There's no, and Capricorns over prepare, so they'll usually end up pretty good anyway because they might not get everything they want, but they'll usually get a lot of it. And and
Okay.
again, or they'll die trying. And
Mhm.
then you just have to then uh, be patient, plant it in fertile seed, and just wait for it to grow.
Okay. So what would be I guess, what's the best way to say this? What would be a good approach for someone who is um, dealing with someone who's very much in Capricorn energy,
Hmm.
who still wants to grow. You know, I want to grow, she wants to grow, but that uh, that structure seems to kind of get in the way sometimes.
Yeah, I think, the key lesson for Capricorns is to not get into dualistic thinking.
Oh, okay.
Either
Talk about that.
good, bad, perfect, failure, black, white. There's two boxes, right? With Capricorn, that when a Capricorn is acting unconsciously, there are two boxes.
Hmm.
So with what life teaches a Capricorn is that there's a lot of gray and purple,
Nuance.
orange, and
Yes.
there's nuance in the
Nuance.
middle of it,
My favorite word.
Yeah, so it's great to reflect that back to that energy and just say it helps them to get out of their that dualism. But the earth plane is so full of, right?
Yes.
Well, I mean, that's what we're
They're
here
Capricorn, the
for.
rules time and space, right? Yeah. I'm sorry, what,
Yeah.
Angie?
I said that's what we're here for. That
Hmm.
that polarized
Experience
experience,
duality.
right?
Yeah.
But there is, I mean, just my experience, and this has got to go both ways, right? That you just, oh, that is funny. That is really funny. I was going to say you can't have black and white. Hello there. Oh, anyway, you can't have black and white, but we are literally black and white. So, um, you just have to be okay. Like, I think somebody said to me a long time ago, men and women are wired different. And as
Hmm.
soon as I heard that, everything got easier.
Hmm.
Just wired different. And it's like what you're talking about, right?
Yeah, we're always striving for balance, I think, but I think we view it through different lenses, for sure.
We're talking about astrology and the full moon and the divine feminine. So if you came in the middle of a question, I promise we'll get to the next one soon. Um, anyway, sorry, I'm speaking to the comments I can see comments because I'm not on my phone. Anyway, so comments from the listeners. Anyway, um, I mean, again, that's about your relationship with yourself first, right?
Right.
You're going to be okay no matter what the other person does. And when you get to that place,
Hmm.
then what the other person does is what it is. Now, this is my experience as an energy teacher. When you start working on yourself, at least I think you can relate to this. When you start working on yourself and you start shifting your vibration to raise it, if the other person is not doing a similar thing, there's going to be dissonance. There just is.
Hmm. There is.
There is. Now, what's really interesting for me is that and I'm not even there yet. I recognized early on because when somebody said, well, the relationship, there'll be dissonance. And I said, I don't think so. I think for me, I still have a ways to go before I get to his vibration, before I get to his resonance. He's he's he was the perfect person for me. But so the idea is, if you are shifting and changing and the other person wants to stay set in their ways, you got to figure out how to either make peace with that or, my phrase, cut it loose.
Hmm.
And if that's not what you want, then you got to figure out how to make it work. But you have to figure out how to make it work on your terms
Hmm.
because whatever the other person is doing, that's not for you to say, right?
Right. It's hard not to be bothered by that sometimes, but
Absolutely, it's hard not to be bothered by that. No doubt it's hard
Yeah.
not to be bothered by that.
True.
But if people aren't going to come to both sides of the table and have a conversation and say, listen, I can handle this, but I can't handle that.
right.
You can handle this, but you can't handle that. Let's see if we can't figure out a way to
And
uh, make this work without having to each of us give up everything about ourselves,
right.
right?
And sometimes I think the best, if a relationship ends, I think sometimes that's positive thing, because you've gotten as far as you can in that relationship. And if you can both realize that and let go, because for whatever reason, you're just, if the frequency level gets vastly different, it's really hard to hold it.
It
in the
really
physical.
is. I mean, that just is what it
And
is.
maybe it's just time for to let go so that each person can be where they need to be and find somebody that's a match to that.
Exactly, right?
Hmm.
Mhm.
Now,
Which I think it's a successful relationship, but society will view that as bad because it ended.
right, exactly. Now, the other thing is, don't take this to mean that fully opposites can't make it work.
Oh, right,
Because
right.
you totally
Can
can't. And
complement each other.
what I found really to be interesting last week, Lisa, when we were talking about the tarot, and the major arcana, and how they relate to the signs, and how my sign is justice, Libra.
Hmm.
My husband's, being a Virgo, is the hermit. He literally is a hermit. I mean, he literally is a hermit.
That's
And he's
cool.
and I, am very balanced, but I'm also, I want to go out. I want to be out. I want to do
Hmm.
things. I want to be with friends. I want to hang with people. He's cool with that as long as he can stay home. So complete opposite, but totally works. Can
Because,
happen.
yeah,
Right?
I think that,
Because there's a level of um, knowing where you are and knowing like I'm a whole person and you're a whole person and you're
yeah,
And it's
yeah,
okay,
and
right?
it's okay.
And
Yep.
it's
yeah,
okay.
because if you
It's
have
okay for you
connection,
to be who you are. It's okay for me to be who I mean,
Yeah.
the first
right?
Love
time
it.
I told somebody that he didn't see this house until yeah, it totally does. But he didn't see this house until we moved in. I picked it. I put the offer on it. He was the one that went to work too, by the way. But I picked it. I put the offer on it. I, you know, got the contract together. We signed it together. He was fine with it. And then when somebody asked him why, he said, "Well, I don't want to live anywhere my wife doesn't want to live."
Oh, that's so sweet.
I
Which is
think,
why I said I have a ways to go to get there, right?
yeah, I think at the end of the day, it's all about connection. If you have connection
Yeah.
with somebody, you have everything. If you don't have connection, you have nothing. And you can have connection and be very different.
Yes. And sometimes when there was something there in the first place, it was not a sustainable thing in the first place. I mean, when I think back to the ones that got away, so to speak, I'd have never made it. Never. Never. Never, never, never. Because one thought I was going to stay home, cook, clean, vacuum, and watch his kids like his mother would. That was just
Whoa.
not ever going to happen. Well,
Mhm.
John, you saw the room I'm working on.
Yeah. Yep. Got one of my own. So
Yeah. So, anyway, so where are we time wise? Where's the clock? Oh, we still got time. We still
yes,
got
we still
about
have time.
12 minutes or so. So, you have another question, John? Maybe something a little lighter this time?
Oh, well, yeah,
All right.
I
Or did
wanted
you get what you needed from that question?
I did. Yeah, that sounds really good. Um, I had a question about Saturn, uh, and so right now, Saturn rules. Sorry, I'm forgetting my words. Saturn
Capricorn.
is yeah, Capricorn. Thank you. Um, how does the full moon affect that relationship right now, or in any full moon where we're going through Capricorn?
Okay. So the moon phases will change signs every month because the moon
Hmm.
has a 28-day cycle. So right now we're in a full moon in Capricorn, which just highlights that sign, and that makes Saturn more important because it is the ruler of
Ah, okay.
Capricorn.
All right. So each month, when it goes through a different sign,
Yeah.
that particular sign during the full moon becomes more important.
Yeah, and the ruling planet
The
becomes the
ruling planet. Yep.
yeah.
Okay,
So
good.
that's
I know it's kind of a dummy question, but that's helpful.
no, it's not not at all. I mean, with the new moon, you're going to have them both in the same sign, but in a full moon, it brings in the opposite sign.
Okay.
So, and then because of that cycle, it's going to be a new, different sign. It just kind of progresses, sign by sign, each month for the year.
So the sign and the planet are what make it so that the new moon is good for setting intention and the full moon is the time for release.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome.
That's the
The why of
basic.
it
Yeah. That's the
was
basic premise of it. Although I say, especially if you work with it every month, you can really do the releasing and setting intentions, with either phase. And like with the full moon, you can release blocks to something. So it might be something you're trying to attract, but you might, whatever, and is energetically or subconsciously blocking it, you can just set an intention to remove the block to it so that it can be manifested in your daily life.
there you go.
Nice.
Hmm.
So okay, I'm gonna go with just this question because this is my list of questions are sort of auto generated, but I like this one. And it falls into place with what you asked, John. What does it really mean to align with divine timing during a full moon? So, what does it really mean? Like, so you said set intention. How do you do that? What does it mean to do that?
Hmm.
I mean, I set intentions every day, but it might be different than what we're talking about. Let's see. We've got uh, I don't, I have the most ridiculous last name, and I don't like to goof up other people's names. So we have a comment that says moon changes daily. Transit moon whenever comes into the sign in which the chart planets is sitting and near the degree of planet you can feel that planet effect inside your mood. Does that make sense to you? Lisa, you
Yeah,
can't actually see the comment, right? So I
I
think
can't.
what we're saying here is that whenever the moon comes into the sign that's on the chart,
Hmm.
the planet is sitting in and near the degree of that planet, you can feel that planning affecting your mood. So as it moves through, as the moon moves through, it that's why it affects our moods. Is that maybe what this person is trying to
Yeah, so
say?
so the moon will go and hit every degree of your chart once a month. I
Oh, the
think is
whole
what.
thing.
Yeah, it'll hit your whole chart. It's just that on certain days, the moon and a new moon, the sun and the moon are in the exact same degree and sign, and in a full moon, they're in the exact same degree but opposite
Opposite.
signs.
Okay.
Mm.
But once a month, the moon will go through and hit every degree, and it will hit all the planets in your birth chart. So the moon actually acts more as a triggering effect in an event. So
So,
you might
okay.
have, go ahead.
No, I just want, I'm going to throw this in there and then I'm going to let you like wrap it all together.
Okay.
So could this have something, and I know I've experienced this. I know my son who, has out there working in the world has experienced this. Have you ever had a day where you went, oh my God, everybody is acting like it's a full moon. And then you look it up and the full moon was like 2 weeks ago. So
Mm,
you're closing in on a new moon or whatever.
yeah.
So, but the people are just crazy like they are in a full moon. And, that is actually tracked. Like they put extra people on in the ER during the full moon. That, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like they expect people to get a little strange. So is that why every once in a while there's some kind of day as the moon is moving that hits just in the right way that everybody gets a little crazy, even though
Yeah.
it's
I
not
mean,
an actual full moon?
right,
Yeah,
right. And
like
then
why?
maybe,
Yeah, why people are crazy? Why do they get crazy?
hmm,
I mean, it's not, it's not malicious,
Right.
but
It's just a little
the
loop.
emergency rooms because people do crazy things like ride skateboards off a wall or jump off a roof with an umbrella or you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
does that make
Well, yeah, they become
where's the
emotional.
influence for all that? I guess.
Yeah, they become emotional, I think, is a good way to put it instead of
Oh,
logical because, the moon, I always say, anyone with a strong Cancer, your moods are going to change rapidly And so it's about riding the wave of emotion instead of getting taken down by the undertow of it. Because sometimes these emotions can get really intense, and then if you act impulsively, that's where that can meet, and you end up in the ER, for example, right? Or it can cause an accident. Sometimes the moon is going next to Mars, and Mars is the planet of impulsivity and aggression.
Now you're looking
Um,
for trouble.
yeah, exactly. You know,
Oh, okay.
Uranus
Oh,
likes to blow things
interesting.
up. So, you know, it's so
Oh, it would be interesting then to have like a chart that has
Mhm.
the planets and the characteristics, you know, just
It's
Yeah.
called an
just to see,
astrology chart.
right? John, so we've got another comment and it's written in some kind of astrology speak that I do not absolutely understand. So maybe you could help out with that one.
Let me take a peek.
Because you know that astrology speak is not really I don't follow it very well. But Lisa is my astrologer, so I don't need to. There you go.
That's
Keeps
why
me
we
in
have Lisa.
business.
Yes.
Yeah, pays my mortgage, Angie. I appreciate it. Yeah, right.
Yeah, I think we'll skip the comment. It's just kind of reaffirming what we just said. So
Oh, okay. All right. That's good.
Yeah.
So thanks for pointing that out. Somebody said they like transit, love transit. I'm not I don't think they're talking about the same thing we're talking about here.
Well, so the transit is essentially the movement of the planet and how it connects in with the birth chart. So that's what I mean by the moon is going to hit every part of your chart. And so when the moon comes up to Pluto and hits your Pluto, that's a transit, not like a conjunction. So the transits are just basically taking the collective energy and plugging them into your individual birth chart.
Oh, there you go. Okay. All right, Lisa, I'm putting your website, your web address in the comments here. So if anybody
Okay.
is Lisa, let's see if I can spell website. So if you're interested in a reading with Lisa, because she does them on Zoom,
Mhm.
in addition to, everywhere else, but I mean live if you're nearby, but she does them on Zoom. So what's going on? We're talking about astrology and we're about to hit the end of the show. So there you go.
I have a question for both of you, actually. So let's
Okay.
talk about rituals.
Yeah.
If we need a ritual or we want to kind of do something to help this release, to keep this balance between the Capricorn energy and the divine feminine, what's a good ritual that would be part of?
Well, I can take it first, Angie. So, like, because I do new and full moon ceremonies here locally,
Oh, cool.
and so I just put out a bunch of water to charge. You can put the water out, cover it up, and then I put them in little blue bottles, and then you can just add a little bit of that water to an 8-ounce glass of water, and that just will kind of charge your intentions. So you can also write down your intentions of whatever you want to release. And then, and the full moon, you typically burn it, and then you just return the ashes back to, nature. And because, unless it's in the middle of the night, it's really kind of powerful to do the burning and release at the time of the actual full moon, if you can.
Okay, so I have like something I want to release, something I want to let go of in my life. I'll write it on a piece of paper
Hmm.
and then burn it in maybe my incense burner at the time of the full moon.
Yeah.
Preferably right at the full moon, but it could be,
If you can, that's a real
yeah.
powerful, like auspicious time to do it. It's a little bit more magical. And then, John, back to your question about balancing, the control with the divine feminine, if you will. So once you take the action of writing it down and burning it and releasing it, then you just have to surrender trust to the lunar
Mm,
energies to bring it back to you in
yep,
divine timing.
yep. The surrender part. Thank you.
Yeah,
That's
the
really
surrender,
important.
which is the hardest part.
Visualize, align, surrender, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway,
Thank you, Angie.
you're welcome. I think I said it in the beginning, but this is my favorite.
Hmm.
So, and I use the full moon, like Lisa said, full moon is good for release, but in order to create what you want, you need to release the things that are keeping you from it, right?
Hmm.
So I take what I want on a piece of paper, and then I set a mason jar, not this one because it's filled with, you know, bulldogs that I use for chip clips, by the way, with water with a lid. Put that in the moon on top of the sticky note, and then tomorrow, after it's been out all night in the moonlight, I drink the whole thing. I don't mess around with the little bottles. I don't mess around with putting a little bit in an 8-ounce glass. I drink the
Guzzle.
whole thing. It is fun because it makes you a little jazzy. But I set the intention as I drink the water to release the things that are keeping me from what is infused in the water by sitting on the. Does that make sense? Like, are you
Yeah,
following what
yeah,
I'm
that's
saying?
really interesting. This is just perfect. It's exactly what I was hoping we'd come up with, something like that. So
Yeah, you can charge your crystals. I also want to say when you release something, fill it in with something. So I always say fill it in with unconditional love for yourself and others.
mm,
Well, I mean, unconditional love is good, but you can fill it in with ease. You can fill it in with abundance. You can
gratitude.
fill it in with joy.
Hmm.
Um, you know what I mean? Like there's all kinds of things. Here's the thing, John. I don't know if you remember because we're talking about rituals for a moment, and we've gone over just a tiny little bit. Um, I was always the one. First of all, how many times, Lisa, did you hear me say divine feminine, divine masculine, whatever? I don't get it. And now all of a sudden, my work is focused on the sovereignty of the divine feminine.
Hmm.
So I'm in like the planning and channeling stage, so it's not really out there in the world quite yet. But so things can shift and change as you shift and change. John,
Right.
how many times did I say to you rituals? Oh my God, I can't even.
Right. Yep. Yep.
And
Yep.
now I perform rituals on the regular, although most of them I can't really
Wonderful.
talk about because,
I love it.
well, because I'm developing something and I don't
Uh-huh.
want to put them out there at the moment. You know what I
Yep.
mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Until
Yeah.
I get it all figured out. So we're it's in the description of the episode. We're talking about astrology and the full moon and the divine feminine. Um anyway, now all of a sudden the idea of ritual, if you think about it, really brushing your teeth is a ritual, isn't it?
Yeah.
So we all do those kind of things, and brushing your teeth as a ritual keeps you doing well at the dentist, right? So if you just kind of look at it that way, all of a sudden now it brings it human. And interesting. We've had a lot of listeners today, so
Cool.
that I'm grateful for that.
Yeah.
If you haven't hit that subscribe button, please do. Anyway, do you have any final thoughts, Lisa?
Hmm. Well, the other thing that's really highlighted in this full moon is Mercury, and it's in a square to the relationship arena, and it's not talking to anybody. And I think it's about going inward and finding your truth and speaking it authentically and sovereignly in your life.
Okay, so what we're kind of saying is put yourself first,
Yeah,
right?
Yep.
it's
In this
self-oriented,
time,
not
in
Yep.
selfish.
this
Self love.
time in the full moon, to be honest, it doesn't really matter what sign the full moon is. It doesn't matter what planet it is. Putting yourself first and becoming your own sovereign self is important. No matter what day it is, no matter what time of year it is, the astrology can help you if you understand it. To be honest, I sit here listening. I have no idea what they're talking about half the time when it comes to astrology. And yet I can appreciate the energy and, take in little bits of information as they come to me. I am not interested in working that hard on something. We all know that about me already. Like I give my friends books so they read them and tell me about them. Like I'm all right with that. Um,
And
so,
your book receiving friends just love you.
oh, well, see, there you go. Um, anyway, I think that's it, really. You got to do you. What
Yep.
works for you?
Can't be anybody else. Just be you.
Yeah. Somebody said that they can help me understand astrology a little bit if I need help. I've got an astrologer. I don't need to understand astrology. But thank you ever so much for your offer. I really appreciate it. Um, anyway, so that's that for today. So
It's good stuff.
good
Hmm.
stuff.
Thank
Absolutely
you,
good
guys.
stuff.
The 3
Yeah,
weeks
thanks,
has
Lisa.
flown by.
I
Yeah,
know, gone too quick. Lisa,
yeah.
we're gonna have to that there we go. Just be you. This, I love this. Just be you. That's it. That's the advice for today.
Mhm.
Um,
Unapologetically. How about
unapologetically. John, we're gonna do the high
Unapologetically.
five. Lisa, we just give everybody a high five
High
at the
five.
end.
Yep.
And so this was episode 3 of this particular season. Because of the things that are coming up, we'll have to let you know what the next episodes are going to be. I will be down a little bit because I've got surgery coming up. I do have a little bit of brain in my ear. That is the truth. Every time I say that, somebody goes, "Don't ever tell me that again." Anyway, thank you all for joining us and listening. And I hope we gave even a little crumb of something that you can relate to. And we appreciate you, Lisa. We appreciate you. And we've got to make sure that we keep up through the whole seasons that, stick with the astrology. Maybe as we keep going, we'll be able to understand it
Yeah, I like
more
this.
and more.
I like this.
So,
I'll be
thank
back.
you, everybody, for listening. If you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button. Thank you. This is the Enlightenment Exchange, and we will talk to you next time.
Bye.
All right.